Well, have you ever heard the expression, be careful what you pray for, you just might get it? Well, there have been many times in my life when I have fervently prayed for something and be very disappointed not to receive it, only to discover later on how fortunate I was that my prayer had not been answered in the way I had hoped. I bet you can relate to this experience yourselves as well. It seems as though this is just what is happening in the first part of the gospel reading. And I have relied a lot on the reflection of Matthew Skinner to help me kind of put this passage into perspective. James and John, along with Peter, were witnesses to Jesus' transfiguration. So they recognize that glory awaits Jesus, perhaps a royal rule, and they want to capitalize on it. And I wonder actually if the anger that the other 10 felt about this was more of annoyance at themselves, that they didn't think of asking for this first. But that's, of course, another situation. They are still in the earthly mode of a cultural political Messiah. Now, Jesus does not admonish them as much as he tries to remind them that trials and suffering are ahead. He will die an utterly despised and powerless king. Now, with the pre-Good Friday confidence, James and John are sure they are capable of drinking the cup and sharing in the baptism. Yet they do not yet know that Jesus' glory will be the cross, and that at his right and left hand will be two criminals who will die with him. And there is some evidence that James and John eventually will martyr themselves, drinking the cup and sharing the baptism. The political and religious authorities relied on coercion and control to maintain their dominance. In absolute contrast, greatness among Jesus' followers is measured by their ability to live as servants. Jesus' death will exemplify his teaching and his ministry. In order to emphasize this point, the writer of this gospel has Jesus saying, "The promised one did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Now, this proclamation, especially when paired with the suffering servant from Isaiah that Bill read for us, brings up a sharp contrast between two very divergent theological perspectives. One is called atonement theology. And this atonement theology implies that Jesus, as a sinless sacrifice, carries the full burden of human sin in order to satisfy God or some cosmic justice. It suggests that human sin, including our own yet to be committed offenses, created the need for Jesus' suffering and death. Now, this is likely the theology on which we were raised. But this is not Mark's understanding of Jesus' death or an accurate interpretation of the use of the word ransom. The Greek word litron, which we translate as ransom, indicates that Jesus' death does something. It secures a release. It is not to be a specific type of payment made to satisfy the penalties accrued by human sin or to repay something owed to God. In Hebrew scriptures, litron frequently refers to God's acting to deliver the people. A litron is a liberation brought about by divine strength, not by human payment. In contrasting theology is one that is sometimes called at-one-ment. I hope you can see that. Emphasizing the one, that this we are standing that Jesus came as a ransom for many, as a ransom freeing us from whatever enslaves us and turns us away from the kingdom of God. Jesus came and became human to become one with us, to show us how to love, to accompany us on our journey, this idea of accompaniment theology. I can certainly relate better to the God of this theology than I can to the one who exacts payment for future offenses. Now, real ministry is never about where we sit. Rather, it is ultimately about how we serve. And may we be open to receive God's accompanying grace as we journey together with Him, with God, toward God's kingdom.